You don't get to pick and choose when to follow God's lead and still expect the fullness of His blessings. The question isn't, is God going to come through for me? The real question is, am I in a position to receive it? Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Pretty Intentional, the podcast where beauty, lifestyle, and personal growth intersect. I'm your host, Candice Coleman, and here we have real conversations about everything from self-care and confidence to faith, friendships, and leveling up in life. Now, if you've been rocking with the kid for a minute, you know that in episode 2, we talked about unloading the clip, letting go of everything holding you back, and truly positioning yourself for the year you actually want. That was all about preparation, getting clear, and making intentional moves. But today, we're taking it even deeper. We're talking about obtaining what we've positioned ourselves for, not just in the natural, but on a spiritual level. Because walking in favor isn't just about strategy and action. Now, I know you've heard the phrase, favor ain't fair. People say it all the time, almost like favor is some random, exclusive thing that just happens to a select few. But I'm here to tell you, favor is absolutely fair. You know, people will say it all the time, ooh, you're God's favorite. You know, that things just always seem to work out for me. And listen, I received that because I say it myself. I am God's favorite. Sky Zaddy does not play about me. The difference is, favor isn't just about God randomly picking and choosing who gets blessed. Favor is about alignment. It's about positioning yourself, walking in faith, exercising patience, and above all, being obedient, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense. See, people see the wins, the open doors, the answered prayers, but what they don't always see is the work behind it. The nights I had to trust God when nothing was moving, the moments I had to be patient when I wanted to force things, the times I had to obey even when it was uncomfortable. Favor isn't about favoritism. It's about faithfulness. I'm going to say that again. Favor isn't about favoritism. It's about faithfulness. And when you move in faith, patience, and obedience, that's when you start seeing the real overflow of God's favor in your life. Come on, somebody say overflow. Yes. We finna get churchy up in here today, okay? Because how do we stand in faith when nothing seems to be happening? How do we remain patient when the waiting feels endless? And how do we obey God when the instructions don't make sense? Child, this is where the real work happens. So whether you're in a waiting season, stepping out on faith, or struggling to obey what God is calling you to do, I think this episode is for you. So today in episode 3, let's talk about what it really means to walk in God's favor and how we can position ourselves to receive it. So grab your journal, get comfortable, and let's get intentional about how we walk in God's favor and see the manifestation of everything we've been preparing for. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to get a piece of paper and draw a triangle. If you don't physically have paper in front of you, I want you to visualize it. And this triangle needs to be an equilateral triangle. Yes, baby, we're going back to basic geometry and doing shapes. Not an isosceles triangle, not an obtuse triangle. What's the other one? Like not a scalene triangle. I need an equilateral triangle, equal on all sides. Okay? And at the bottom left corner of your triangle, I want you to write the word faith. And at the bottom right corner, I want you to write the word patience. And at the top of your triangle, I want you to put obedience. Now, if this is not going to work for you, and if you are a more linear person in how you see things, you can either do it left to right and have faith at the left and patience in the middle and obedience to your far right. Or if you needed to go vertically, put faith at the bottom and patience in the center and then obedience at the top. But whatever you do, just know that Faith is going to be, as my granny would say, God rest her soul, at the root, okay? I just need you to know that faith is going to be at the base. This is going to be the basis and the foundation of this trifecta. So if we're starting with faith, the good book tells us in Hebrews 11:1, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, for we live by faith and not by sight. The first thing you need to do is to believe and have faith that you're going to get exactly what it is that you want. And that's why it makes sense that faith is at the basis of this trifecta to opening up favor and blessings and getting in the overflow. Because it doesn't matter how patient you are or how obedient you are if you don't actually believe that it can happen. You're wasting your time, you're wasting God's time, you're wasting the universe's time by not believing you're going to get exactly what it is that you want. So before you even write it in your journal, before you cut out that cute picture and make your little visuals and put it on your vision board, believe that it is already yours. You are energetically wasting your time thinking about anything else other than securing the win. And let me be clear, this isn't about just saying that you have faith. It's about moving like you do, okay? You walk by faith. You're moving. You are in movement. Because when you truly believe something is yours, you don't second guess it. You don't ask if, you ask when. You don't sit in doubt. You prepare for the manifestation. If you're praying for an opportunity, are you ready for it when it comes? If you're believing for a relationship, are you becoming the person who can nurture and sustain it? Faith isn't passive, honey. It's an active expectation. But here's the challenge. Faith often requires waiting. And that's where the second part of the trifecta comes in. A lot of people think patience is just sitting around, waiting for something to happen. But patience is not passive. It's an active endurance. It's about working the wait. Because here's the thing. Faith without works is dead. And that's not me saying that, baby. That's the Bible. That's James 2:26. You can have all the faith in the world, but if you're not doing anything while you wait, you're missing a key part of the process. Because waiting isn't just about passing time passing. It's about what you do in the meantime. Think about it. If you're believing for a house, are you getting your finances in order? If you're praying for a new job, are you sharpening your skills? Okay? Are you doing what needs to be done? Patience isn't sitting still. It's moving with expectation. It's preparing yourself for what you know is coming. We talked about that in the faith section. I know it's going to happen. Okay. I'm preparing myself for what I know is already coming. And sometimes God makes us wait on purpose, not to deny us, but to develop us. Because favor requires capacity. Favor requires capacity. You don't want to step into a blessing you're not prepared to sustain. So instead of asking, why is it taking so long? You need to start asking yourself, how can I work this wait? What can I do while I'm waiting? James 1, verses 3 and 4. Because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So once you've built your faith and activated your patience, the last piece of the trifecta is obedience. Because favor isn't just about what we want, it's about aligning with what God is calling us to do. So we've talked about faith and believing that it's already yours. We've talked about patience and actively working the wait. And now when we get into obedience, it's because favor doesn't just show up because we want it. It shows up because we're aligned with God's plan. And obedience is where a lot of people get stuck. Because let's be real. Sometimes God's instructions don't make sense. They don't be making no sense, girl. And one of my favorite things is saying, like, I'm going to do what he says because he does crazy things where it doesn't make sense. So that when people hear your testimony and your story, they know it was nobody but him. Because it wasn't you. The things that I have gotten is not me. When I tell people, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Baby, that's all him. Sky Zaddy doesn't play about me. Because sometimes he's going to tell you to walk away from something that looks good. He's going to ask you to move before you feel ready. And sometimes he calls you to do something that stretches you in ways you never expected. But here's what I've learned. Blessings live on the other side of obedience. Isaiah 1:19, if you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good things of the land. Think about Noah. God told Noah to build an ark, and there wasn't even a drop of rain. Imagine if he had waited for proof instead of moving by faith. But we can step away from the Bible and we can just talk about my own life. To this day, people ask me why I do things the way that I do. Specifically, they'll ask me, what made me just up and move to Houston? And I will always tell them with a straight face, because God told me to. One thing I know from my life, because life gonna keep lifing, and baby keep living. When God tell you to move them feet, pick up your feet and move. Because only God would tell me to up and leave and move 1,300 miles away with no family, no job, little to no savings, only for me to be diagnosed with breast cancer. But what I did not know is he placed me in the #1 place in the country for breast cancer treatment and research. Now, had I not moved my feet when God told me to, what would have happened? Obedience isn't about understanding every step. It's about trusting that God knows the full picture. And if you want favor, you have to follow the call, even when it's uncomfortable. And let me tell you, favor flows where obedience goes. You don't get to pick and choose when to follow God's lead and still expect the fullness of his blessings. The question isn't, is God going to come through for me? The real question is, am I in a position to receive it? So hopefully you can see, like, this is why it needs to be equal parts, right? If you've got the faith, I believe it, but then you're not patient in working the wait, it's not gonna happen. Or I'm obedient, I'm doing what he told me to do, but then there's like that doubt in the back of your head. You don't have the faith. It's got to be equal parts. And when those three align, it's like, it just opens. It's kind of like on the Fifth Element. When you got all the pieces together, and it's like she screams at them, they all come together. That's what it's like. So let's bring it all together. If you truly want to walk in God's favor, you need 3 things. 1, you need faith. Believe that it's already yours. 2, you need patience. You need to work the wait. And 3, you need obedience. You need to follow the call. Favor isn't random. It's not just about being in the right place at the right time. It's about being aligned. And when you move in faith, practice patience, and walk in obedience, you position yourself to receive everything that God has for you. So here's my challenge for you and your homework. I want you to ask yourself, am I truly walking in faith? Am I being patient and working my wait? Am I being obedient even when it's uncomfortable? Because favor isn't just about wanting, it's about preparing. I hope this episode encouraged you to take a deeper look at how you're positioning yourself for the favor you're praying for. And if this resonated with you, send me a message, share this episode with someone who needs it, and let's keep this conversation going. I told y'all I'd be preaching better than the girls be saying amen, okay? Y'all can go ahead and cash at me. That's going to be us passing a little collection plate around. I know somebody's shaking their tambourines, a whole bunch of ums and some head nods. I know it, girl. That's what this is. That's what this podcast is all about, okay? So thank you for joining me for another episode of Pretty Intentional. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a comment. You can follow me at Candice O Beauty on all platforms, and be sure to follow Pretty Intentional on IG as well. Remember, being intentional isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up for yourself and your journey. Until next time, stay true to yourself, live with purpose, and as always, keep it pretty intentional.